The air in the galactic arena on Telvar was thick with the smell of ozone and the roar of a million voices. The light from the system's twin suns streamed through the open dome, reflecting off the polished metal of the viewing decks and the dusty red floor of the combat pit. In the competitor's bay, a human stood beside her machine. June placed a hand on the leg of her mech, the Morning Star. The metal was cool under her palm. The machine was not like the others. It was not smooth and gleaming. It had sharp angles and welded plates. It looked like it was built by hands, not grown in a factory. Her teammate, Minji, had painted a single, small Korean word in neat white script near the cockpit hatch in patience. "You ready?" a voice asked. It was Dae-hyun, their team leader. His face was lined, older than his years. He carried a heavy memory, a loss from a fight in this very arena 2 cycles ago. June nodded. She was not tall. In her simple gray flight suit, she seemed slight next to the massive war machines of the other species. Her black hair was tied back tightly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were watchful, taking in every detail of the chaotic bay around them. "Remember the plan," Dae-hyun said, his voice low. "They will try to make you angry. They will try to make you afraid. Your greatest weapon is here." He tapped a finger gently against his own temple. "Not in the weapons rack." "I remember," June said. Her voice was quiet but clear. Minji's voice crackled over the small speaker in Ji-yoon's ear. "All systems are green, Ji-yoon. Neural link is stable, just like in practice." On the far side of the arena, a huge gate was grinding open. From the dark tunnel beyond, a monstrous shape emerged. It was Champion Ravalis Mech. It was called the Claw of Zroth. It walked on 4 powerful legs. Its body was a shell of dark, organic-looking armor. 2 large arms ended not in hands, but in glowing plasma claws that hissed and shimmered in the air. The crowd exploded in recognition. This was a favorite, a proven killer from a warrior species. Then, a spotlight swung to the human bay. The noise from the crowd changed. The cheers for Raval mixed with sounds of amusement, chitters, whistles, and low rumbles of laughter. To them, the Morning Star looked like a child's toy. To them, Ji-yoon looked like a lost child. That a hollow screen the size of a building flickered to life above the arena. The image was of the arena's speaker, Kvor. He was a Zillion, with fine blue scales and large, dark eyes that held a permanent look of smug superiority. His voice, smooth and amplified, echoed everywhere. "Sentience of the galaxy, welcome to the first round of the Telvar Conclave," he boomed. The crowd roared back. In the red corner, a warrior whose name brings fear, the scourge of the Borland Reach, the undefeated mauler, Champion Raval of the Tari. The 4-legged mech raised its claws, and plasma arcs crackled between them. The arena floor vibrated with the crowd's stomping approval. Chorus hologram smiled, showing sharp teeth. "And now, the other participant." The dismissive tone was clear. The spotlight tightened on Ji-yoon, who stood perfectly still. Hailing from the newly admitted, and oh so delicate, planet Earth, their champion. He paused, as if reading something on a screen he could not understand. He squinted. "Their pilot." He made a show of stumbling over the syllables. "Ji-yoon?"
Ji-yoon.
He let out a short, sharp laugh, a sound like scraping metal. The crowd's murmur of anticipation turned to titters of confusion. "What a strange little noise," Kvor continued, his voice dripping with mockery. "It has no weight. It means nothing. It is as fragile as their world's atmosphere." He leaned closer to his pickup, his face huge on the screen. "Let us not waste time with primitive mouth sounds. For our convenience, we shall call this one
Specimene 237.
A wave of laughter started to roll through the alien crowd. It was the laughter of a bully, easy and cruel. It was meant to shatter her focus before the fight even began. It was meant to make her feel like a thing, not a person. Ji-yoon did not look down. She did not flinch. She did not shake her fist. Instead, she slowly turned her head. She looked directly up at the giant holographic face of Speaker Kvor. Her expression did not change. There was no anger there. No scham. No fear. There was only a profound, unblinking calm. Her dark eyes held a depth that the spotlight could not illuminate. The laughter, which had begun to build, hit that calm, silent gaze and faltered, sputtered. A few in the front rows, whose view of her face was clearest on their own screens, fell quiet first. Their amusement died in their throats. The silence spread backwards, like a wave moving in reverse, row by row. The arena, a moment ago a cauldron of noise, was being drained of sound by the quiet dignity of a single human. The only noise was the hum of the arena's lights and the faint hiss of Rivalis plasma claws. Kvora's smug smile had frozen on his gigantic face. He was waiting for the laughter to continue, to justify his cruelty. It did not come. He shifted uncomfortably. The silence was now a physical presence, heavy and weighting in that immense quiet. June turned away from the speaker. She walked to the Morning Star, placed her hand on the entry ladder and began to climb. Each movement was deliberate and steady. She did not rush. She did not look back. The fight had not yet begun. But in the arena of respect, the first and most important victory was already hers. The galaxy had tried to ridicule her name, and the galaxy, for the first time, had found nothing to say. The silence followed June into the preparation chamber. It was a small, gray room behind the competitor's bay. The heavy door closed behind her, sealing out the quiet of the arena and leaving only the hum of the ship's systems. Daehyun was already there, waiting. He said nothing as she walked in. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. The knuckles white. June stood in the center of the room. She took a slow breath in, then let it out. The fight was not for several minutes, but the first battle was over. Minji's voice broke the stillness, coming from a speaker on the wall. Did you hear him? That scaled worm.
Specimen 237?
I'm going to rewire his broadcast system to play only human nursery rhymes. Daehyun moved then. He walked to an equipment locker and pulled out a case. He opened it to reveal a set of tools and several small canisters of sealant foam. Come here, he said, his voice tight. Let me check your suit. June walked to him and stood still, holding her arms out slightly. He began a final, thorough check of the seals at her wrists, her ankles, and the neck of her gray flight suit. His movements were sharp, precise, but his anger was a heat coming off him. He was not angry at her. He was angry for her. They always do this, Minji continued, her voice crackling. Her face appeared on a small monitor screen. She was in the engineering booth high above the arena, surrounded by screens showing data from the Morning Star. Her brow was furrowed. They find the weak point in your mind before they look for one in your armor. They try to break your spirit so the fight is easy. Daehyun's fingers paused at the seal on Jiun's collar. He did not look at her face. He was looking at a point on the wall, but he was not seeing it. He was seeing something else. Another human pilot 2 years ago in this same arena. A man named Taeshik. The speaker that day had not mocked his name but his home. They had called Earth a mudball, a primitive rock. They showed images of old wars, of poverty. They laughed. Taeshik had gone into his fight boiling with rage. He had made a mistake. A costly one. Daehyun had carried his body out of a broken mech. Do not listen to the words, Daehyun said, his voice a low rumble. He finally met Jiun's eyes. They are just noise. Empty air. You are a pilot. Your world is the cockpit. Nothing else exists. June was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Daehyun's face, at the deep line of worry between his eyes. She looked at Minji's concerned face on the screen. She understood their fear. It was a heavy thing. They were carrying it for her. My grandmother named me Jiun, she said. Her voice was soft in the quiet room, but it was firm. Daehyun blinked, pulled from his dark memory. She lived through the Korean War, Jiun continued. She did not move as Daehyun resumed his work, checking the clips on her oxygen feed. She was a girl. She saw her home burn. She carried her younger sister on her back for 100 miles to find safety. She ate tree bark and roots to survive that first winter. Minji had gone silent on the comms, listening. When she was older, she worked in a factory during the day and cleaned offices at night. She raised 3 children alone in a city that was still just rubble and hope. She had hands that were always cut, and a back that always ached. Jiun's gaze was distant, looking at a memory she had been told many times. She said they rebuilt a country with those hands. 1 brick, 1 road, 1 child at a time. Daehyun had stopped working. He was just listening now. She gave me this name, Jiun said, looking back at him.
Yeon.
It means wisdom and kindness. She said it was not a small gift. She said a name is not just a sound. It is a story. It is a world. It is all the people who carried it before you, and all the hope they placed in you to carry it forward. She took another slow breath. The calm she had shown in the arena was not an act. It came from a deep place. When he laughed at my name, he did not laugh at me. He laughed at my grandmother's hands. He laughed at her survival. He laughed at the bricks she laid. He does not understand its weight. So his laughter means nothing. The room was silent again, but this was a different silence. The tension was gone. The heat of Daehyun's anger had cooled. He nodded slowly, a deep respect in his eyes. He finished the last clasp on her suit. "You are ready," he said. His voice now steady. Minji's voice came back, thick with emotion. "You show them, Jiun. You show them what that name can do." An alert tone sounded in the room. A neutral automated voice announced, "Champion to the bay. Combat initiation in 2 minutes." Jiun turned and walked to the door that led back to the Morning Star. Daehyun put a hand on her shoulder just before she left. It was a brief, solid touch. "Carry it well," he said. She nodded. Then she stepped back out into the light of the bay. The Morning Star stood waiting. The crowd's noise was beginning to return, a confused and curious murmur. They were waiting to see if the human silence was strength or shock. June placed her hand on the cold metal of her mech, right over the painted word in it, "Patience." She did not look at the crowd. She did not look at the giant hologram of Speaker Kfor. She looked only at her machine. She carried her grandmother's world with her, and she was not afraid of its weight. The final clamps released with a loud hiss. June sat in the cockpit of the Morning Star. The hatch sealed above her, closing out the world. Inside it was quiet. The only light came from the screens that wrapped around her. They showed the view from the mech's cameras. In front of her was the vast, dusty floor of the arena and the monstrous shape of Champion Ravalis mech. She put her hands into the control guides. They were like heavy gloves connected to a complex system of wires and sensors. She slid her feet into the foot pedals. A soft chime sounded in her helmet. The neural link was activating. It was a human design system. The galaxy's other species used thought command interfaces, but they were crude. They shouted orders to their machines. The human system was a whisper. It was a partnership. A cool feeling started at the base of her skull. It was not an invasion. It was a connection. She felt the Morning Star around her. She felt the heavy weight of its legs, the feedback in its joints, the low hum of its power core in her bones. She was not just piloting a machine. She was wearing it. She breathed in, and the mech systems pulsed in time with her heart on her main screen. A targeting rectangle appeared over Ravalis mech. Data scrolled beside it. Mass, heat signature, estimated power output. The numbers were not good. His mech was bigger, stronger, and better armed. The crowd knew this. Their noise was returning, a low, hungry rumble. They were waiting for the violence to begin. But as the system synced, Jiun's mind did not stay in the arena. The calm she felt was a door, and behind that door were memories. They were not her own, but they were just as real. They were the stories that lived in her name. She saw a winter landscape, not an arena. The ground was frozen mud and ash. A young girl, no more than 10, was pulling a wooden cart. It was piled with broken bricks. Her hands, wrapped in dirty rags, were bleeding. But she worked. She pulled one brick, then another, from the ruins of a house. She was saving them. They could be used again. Her face was thin, but her eyes were fierce. This was her grandmother. This was the beginning. The voice of Speaker Kvor crackled in her ear on the public channel. Round 1 begins in 30 seconds. Let's hope specimen E237 can provide more entertainment than its name suggests. A few scattered laughs answered him, but they were weak. Unsure. Jiun ignored the voice. She flexed her hands inside the guides. The Morning Star's metal fingers clenched and unclenched in perfect time. She tested the leg actuators, taking one step forward, then back. The movement was smooth. Minji's voice was in her private ear now. All systems perfect. Jiun. Neural link at 98%. You are green. The memory shifted. It was no longer winter. It was a crowded, noisy room full of loud machines. A woman, now older, sat at a sewing machine. Her back was straight, but you could see the ache in her shoulders. Her fingers flew, guiding fabric under a pounding needle. The air was thick with dust. She worked for 12 hours. Then, she walked across the city, her lunch tin empty, to another building. There she washed floors. She scrubbed on her hands and knees until the dark tile shone. The money was for books, for school uniforms, for her children. This was not just work. This was building a future, one stitch, one clean floor at a time. 10 seconds. The arena's automated countdown boomed. Rivalis mech crouched on its 4 legs. The plasma claws glowed brighter, whining with power. It was a predator ready to spring. Jiun settled into her stance. The Morning Star bent its knees slightly. Its arms came up, not in a fighter's aggressive pose, but in a balanced, ready position. It was a stance from her Hapkido training. It was for receiving force, not just meeting it. 5, 4, 3. The memory changed again. It was a small, warm apartment. The same woman, her hair now gray, held a baby. She rocked slowly in a chair. She sang a very old song, her voice rough but gentle. She looked down at the child's face. Jiun, she whispered. Your name is a promise. Be wise, be kind, and be strong. Stronger than the winters I knew. 2, 1. The images faded, but the feeling did not leave. It settled in Jiun's chest. It was a solid thing. It was the weight of survival. It was the patience of a people who knew how to endure. They had endured war, hunger, and division. They had endured by being stubborn, by being clever, by holding onto their culture in their names, their food, their songs. They rebuilt a world from nothing, not with a single great act, but with millions of small, stubborn acts of courage every single day. Begin! Kvor shouted. Rivalis mech exploded into motion. It was fast for its size. It charged across the red dust, kicking up a cloud. The plasma claws ripped through the air, ready to carve the Morning Star in half. The crowd screamed for blood. Jiun did not charge. She did not fire a weapon. She waited. Her mind was clear. She was not just a pilot in a machine. She was a granddaughter in a story of survival. The arena was just another hard winter. The opponent was just another mountain of rubble to be moved, one piece at a time. She watched the charge. She calculated the angle. Her hands moved gently in the guides. The Morning Star stepped to the side. It was a small, efficient movement. It was not a frantic dodge. It was a redirection, like moving just enough to let a strong wind pass by you. Rival thundered past, his claws slicing empty air. The crowd scream hit a strange note. It was not the sound of a hit. It was the sound of surprise. Jiun turned her mech to face him again. She settled back into her ready stance. She had not attacked. She had simply not been where the blow landed. It was the first lesson of endurance. You do not waste energy. You conserve it. You wait. You understand your opponent. In the roaring silence of her cockpit, with the ghost of her grandmother's song in her heart, Jiun was ready. The real fight had finally started. The crowd's noise returned, a wave of confusion. Champion Rival skidded to a halt, his 4-legged mech digging long furrows in the red dirt. He turned, the motion smooth and predatory. The glowing plasma claws hissed, throwing blue light across the dusty ground. The silent dodge had been an insult. He had expected a crash, the scream of tearing metal. He had gotten nothing. Inside the Morning Star, June breathed steadily. The world outside was chaos, but in the cockpit, there was only the flow of data and the feel of the machine around her. Her heart beat strong and slow. On her screen, Minji's text scrolled, neural link holding, mobility at 100%. He's confused. Speaker Kvora's voice tried to fill the strange quiet. A lucky evasion by the Earth specimen. But you can't win a fight by running away. June was not running. She was watching. Her mech stood calmly, its stance balanced. Rivala's machine was a masterpiece of alien engineering, but it moved with a certain predictable aggression. Every shift of its weight, every twitch of its claw arms, sent signals. Jiun's eyes tracked them, her mind processing them as easily as reading a sentence. Rival charged again. This time it was not a straight line. He feinted to the left, then lunged to the right, a claw sweeping in a wide, deadly arc meant to cut the morning star in half at the waist. Jiun's hands moved. The morning star dropped into a low crouch. The glowing claw passed over its head. So close the cockpit screens flickered with the plasma's interference. Before Rival could pull back, June acted. The morning star's right arm shot up, not to punch, but to push. Its metal palm slammed into the joint where Rivala's claw arm met the main body of his mech. It was not a powerful strike. It did no damage, but it was perfectly timed. It used Rivala's own momentum against him, shoving the arm just a little farther off its intended path. Rival stumbled, thrown off balance for a single crucial second. His other claw swung wildly to correct himself, tearing a deep scar in the arena floor. The crowd's murmur grew louder. This was not luck. This was a pattern. In the engineering booth, Minji leaned forward, her eyes wide on her screens. She's not fighting his strength, she whispered to Daehyun over a private channel. She's fighting his balance. Hapkido, in a 12-ton mech. Daehyun, watching from the dim prep room, allowed himself a single, tight nod. He remembered the hours in the training gym on Earth. June moving through the forms, fluid and precise. The suit is just a bigger body, she had said once. The principles are the same. Rival roared over the public channel, a distorted sound of pure frustration. He unleashed a barrage. He came in close, his claws becoming a blur of searing blue light. Left, right, high, low. It was a storm of violence designed to overwhelm, to shatter defense through sheer force. June moved. The morning star became a study in minimal motion. It swayed back, just inches out of range of a horizontal cut. It leaned to the side, letting a downward stab slam into the ground beside its foot. It used its arms to parry, not block. Each contact was a glancing push, a subtle redirection. The screech of metal on metal was constant, and bright sparks flew where the plasma edges kissed the morning star's armor, leaving black scorch marks. But the core of the mech, the cockpit where Jiun sat, remained untouched. She was the calm center of the storm. Her movements in the control guides were small, economical. She was not fighting force with force. She was accepting his force, guiding it, and letting it waste itself on empty air and solid ground. Each failed attack made Rival more furious. Each calm dodge made the crowd more quiet. The spectacle they had paid for was not happening. There was no glorious, brutal smash. There was a puzzle. A small, angular machine was dancing around a monster, and the monster was getting tired. After another furious combo that ended with Rivala's claw buried deep in the dirt, June saw her opening. It was small. As Rival heaved to pull his weapon free, his right front leg was extended. Bearing all his weight, June stepped in. The morning star drove its shoulder into the side of Rivala's mech, right at the hip joint of that extended leg. It was a short, sharp shove like a judo throw. It was not about power. It was about leverage. Rivala's leg buckled. The massive mech tipped sideways. It caught itself with a desperate lunge of another leg, preventing a total fall, but it was now crouched awkwardly off-kilter. A low, collective gasp came from the crowd. The mighty champion had almost been put on the ground. The morning star stepped back again, resuming its ready stance. It did not press the attack. It simply waited. The arena was now truly silent. The only sounds were the hum of machinery, the hiss of Ravalis' overheating claws, and the deep, mechanical vents of his mech struggling to stabilize in his commentator's booth. Speaker Kvor had nothing to say. His mouth was slightly open. The script for this fight was in ashes. He was watching something new, something his vocabulary of mockery had no words for. June looked through her cockpit screen at the struggling alien champion. Her face was calm, a little sheen of sweat on her brow, the only sign of effort. She was not smiling. She was not triumphant. She was focused. The first round was not about winning. It was about surviving. It was about showing the galaxy that a human could not be broken by a storm. She had done more than survive. She had taught a lesson. And the class, from the furious champion to the silent, watching galaxy, was finally paying attention. The silence in the arena was complete. It was a heavy, listening quiet. The only movement was the slow settling of red dust around champion Ravalis' mech as it pushed itself back to a stable, four-legged stance. The hiss of its plasma claws was lower now, the blue glow pulsing like an angry heartbeat. Inside his cockpit, Raval was raging. He was a celebrated warrior. His victories were fast and brutal. This was an insult. This human was a bug, dodging and tapping. It was time to stop playing. A new sound cut through the quiet. It was a deep, grinding hum from Ravalis' mech. On the Morning Star screens, Minji's warning text flashed red. Energy spike. He's powering up his main weapon system. Along the back of the four-legged mech, armored panels slid open. A barrel, glowing with a dangerous orange light, emerged. It was a concussion cannon. It did not cut. It smashed. It fired waves of pure force that could crumple armor and shatter joints from the inside. He's going to break the rules of close combat. Daehyun's tense voice came over the private channel. He can't catch you, so he's going to try to blast the whole area. June's eyes narrowed. She had studied the tournament rules. Area attacks were allowed, but they were seen as crude, a weapon for when skill failed. Raval was admitting his skill had failed. Cannon charging. 5 seconds. Minji reported. Her voice sharp. June made a decision. She could not outrun a shockwave. The Morning Star was agile, but the arena floor was open. There was only one option. She had to get in close. Too close for the cannon to be used. The Morning Star moved forward. It was not a dash. It was a quick, purposeful walk straight toward the larger mech. The crowd gasped. This looked like suicide. Raval saw her coming. A grating laugh echoed on the public channel. Now you come to fight? Too late. The orange glow at the cannon's mouth brightened, gathering power. 0.4 seconds. June was halfway to him. Her mind was clear, calculating angles and distance. She felt the Morning Star's joints, the readiness in its stride. 0.3 seconds. Ravalis' mech braced itself, its legs digging in to absorb the cannon's recoil. The targeting system would have a wide spread at this range. He couldn't miss. 0.2 seconds. June's hands clenched in the guides. She wasn't going to make it in time to stop the shot. She had to change the equation. She looked past the glowing cannon barrel to the mech's main body, to the heavy shoulder joint of its right claw arm. 0.1 second. The cannon fired. The air itself seemed to tear. A visible ripple of distorted energy, like heat rising from a desert, blasted outward from the barrel. The same moment, June jumped. But she did not jump back. She did not jump sideways. She commanded the Morning Star to leap forward and up, tucking its legs. It was a desperate, soaring move, using every bit of power in the leg actuators. The wave of force passed underneath it. The Morning Star was rocked in the air by the edge of the blast, alarms screaming in the cockpit. But it cleared the worst of it. It sailed over the fading shockwave over the cannon barrel and came down not with an attack, but with a crash. It landed directly on top of Ravalis' mech. Metal shrieked in protest. The Morning Star's feet slammed onto the broad, armored back of the four-legged machine, just behind the cockpit. Its weight drove Ravalis' mech down, its legs buckling slightly under the sudden load. The crowd was on its feet. There were no cheers, just a stunned, collective exhalation. Inside the Morning Star, June fought for control. Her mech was balanced precariously on a moving, hostile surface. Warning lights flashed. One of her ankle actuators was damaged from the hard landing. She ignored the pain feedback in the neural link. Raval was roaring, his mech twisting and bucking like an animal trying to throw a rider. The cannon was useless now, pointed at the ground beneath them. He tried to reach back with his plasma claws, but the angles were wrong. He couldn't twist far enough. June did the only thing she could to stay on. The Morning Star dropped into a low crouch for stability. His hands, instead of punching, grabbed. It seized the edges of the armored panels that had opened for the cannon. It held on. The two mechs were now locked together, a tangled, struggling heap of metal in the center of the arena. It was not graceful. It was not a clean martial arts move. It was a brutal, pragmatic act of survival. June had turned his area weapon against him by removing all area. It was close quarters now, so close that over the public channel, her breathing, steady and focused, could be heard. Then, she spoke. Her voice was calm, without anger, and it carried to every screen in the galaxy. "You fight for victory," she said, each word clear. "I fight for my name. They are not the same." The words hung in the air, heavier than the metal all around them. They were not a boast. They were an explanation. Raval fought for a prize, for glory. June fought to carry something, to prove that what she carried could not be crushed by force, or mocked into nothing. Raval's struggles became even more frantic. But they were the movements of panic now, not strategy. He was trying to scrape her off on the arena walls. He started to stumble toward the edge, dragging the clinging Morning Star with him. The fight had changed. It was no longer a contest of weaponry. It was a test of will. And on the back of the raging champion, holding on with broken grace, the human was winning. The world became a violent, shaking blur. From her perch on the back of Raval's mech, June saw the arena wall rushing toward them. He was going to slam her into it, to scrape the Morning Star off like a burr. Alarms wailed inside her cockpit. The damage report on her ankle actuator blinked red. It wouldn't hold for much longer. "Brace!" Minji's voice was a shout in her ear. June didn't brace to hold on. She braced to move. As the cold, hard surface of the arena wall filled her screen, she made a choice. She released her grip. The Morning Star pushed off with its good leg just as Raval's mech smashed into the barrier. A terrible crunch of metal echoed through the stadium. June's mech flew backwards through the air, spinning. She fought the controls, trying to turn the fall into a roll. The Morning Star hit the ground shoulder first, tumbling twice before coming to a stop on its back. A groan went through the crowd. The human was down. This was the end they had expected. In the prep room, Daehyun's hand was a tight fist. On her screen, Minji bit her lip, watching the vital signs. "Ji-yoon, talk to me." Inside the cockpit, the world was upside down. Warning lights painted the ceiling red. Pain, sharp and electronic, shot up from her damaged leg. She took a gasping breath. "I'm here," she said. "Mobility. Left leg is at 40%. Right leg is fine. Core systems are stable. You have to get up." On the other side of the arena, Raval's mech was peeling itself away from the dented wall. His cannon was mangled from the impact, useless. One of his plasma claws was cracked, its light flickering. But he was still standing. He turned, his mech moving with a new, jerky limp, and saw the Morning Star lying on the ground. A low, triumphant growl came over the speaker. This was the moment when the weaker opponent is down and the stronger one moves in for the final blow. The crowd knew it. They leaned forward, their earlier silence broken by the old, hungry anticipation. Raval charged. It was not the smooth run from the start of the fight. It was a hobbling, furious rush. But it was fast enough. He raised his one good plasma claw high, aiming to drive it straight through the Morning Star's chest. June looked up at the ceiling of her cockpit, at the inverted screen showing the raging mech bearing down on her. Her grandmother's face seemed to float in her mind, not smiling, not fearful, just determined. A woman who had gotten back up every single time. "Minji," June said, her voice suddenly clear. "On my mark, route all auxiliary power to the right leg and the torso thrusters. All of it." "What?" That will blow the circuits. You'll have no power left. On my mark, Ji-yoon repeated, her eyes fixed on the screen. Calculating the shrinking distance, Orval was almost upon her. The claw was a falling star of blue fire. Ji-yoon's hands flew over the manual override panel. She wasn't trying to get the mech to stand up. She was programming one single, desperate move. Now! She slammed her hands into the guides. On the arena floor, the Morning Star did not stand. His torso twisted violently. Its undamaged right leg coiled and then kicked upward with every ounce of strength its fried systems could give. At the same time, the small maneuvering thrusters along its side and back, meant for fine adjustments in 0G, fired at full, screaming power. The mech did not rise. It spun on its back like a breakdancer, a full, powered rotation. Orval's killing blow came down and struck empty ground where the Morning Star's chest had been a half-second before, digging a deep, molten pit. The momentum of the spin, combined with the powerful kick, sent the Morning Star's heavy foot crashing into the side of Orval's already damaged front leg. There was a sound like a giant tree snapping. Orval's mech screamed as its leg gave way completely. The massive machine crashed down onto its side, throwing up a cloud of dust. It tried to push itself up with its arms, but the leg was broken, a mess of sparking wires and bent hydraulics. The Morning Star finished its spin and lay still, flat on its back again, only a few meters from the fallen champion. Smoke curled from its overstressed thrusters. The cockpit was dark, main power offline. Only the emergency lights glowed inside. But it was not pierced by a plasma claw. It was intact. The arena was so quiet Ji-yoon could hear the crackle of Orval's broken systems. She could hear her own breath inside her helmet. She lay in the silence, waiting. A green light appeared on her console. The arena's referee drone floated down between the two fallen mechs. Scanned them both. A neutral electronic voice announced the finding to the entire stadium. Champion Orval's mobility is critically impaired. Combat Unit Earth 1 is immobilized but functional. Victory is awarded by tactical incapacitation to the pilot of Earth 1. For a second, nothing happened. The words seemed to hang in the air, not yet understood. Then, from the human section, a small, lonely cluster of seats, a single ragged cheer went up. It was Dae-hyun's voice, raw with released emotion. It was not followed by a roar. The alien crowd did not cheer. Instead, they rose. It was not all at once, but like a slow wave. First a few in the front, then more, then whole sections. They stood silently. Some placed their upper limbs across their chests. Others bowed their heads slightly. It was not the celebration of a favorite's win. It was a gesture of respect. They had not seen a stronger warrior defeat a weaker one. They had seen something stubborn, smart, and unbreakable refuse to lose. They had seen a name defended. And in the silent standing of 1,000 species, the galaxy offered its apology. The silence in the arena was a living thing. It was full of meaning. Ji-yoon lay in the dark of her cockpit, listening to it. The only sounds were the soft hiss of her oxygen and the distant, metallic groans from Orval's fallen mech. The emergency lights painted the small space a dim red. She was very tired. Her body ached from the neural feedback, a deep soreness in her muscles that matched the damage warnings on her screen. Outside, the work drones hummed into action. Two large, flat drones slid underneath the Morning Star. With a gentle lift, they raised the mech from the dusty ground and turned it upright. Ji-yoon's world slowly righted itself. Through her cracked front screen, she saw the arena clearly. The crowd was still standing. Row upon row of strange faces and forms, all quiet, all looking at her. The drones carried her mech slowly back toward the human bay. As they passed the wreckage of Orval's machine, she saw the cockpit hatch was open. Medics were helping the alien pilot out. He moved slowly, clutching his side. As Ji-yoon's mech passed, Orval looked up. His fierce, proud face was pale with pain and shock. His eyes met hers through the damaged screens. He did not glare. He did not look away. He simply stared, as if he was seeing her for the first time. Then he gave a single, slow nod. It was not a friendly gesture, but it was one of acknowledgement. A warrior to a warrior. The drones set the Morning Star down gently in the competitor's bay. The clamps engaged with a solid thunk. Ji-yoon heard the external locks disengage. With stiff fingers, she reached up and pulled the release lever for her own cockpit. The hatch hissed open above her, letting in the bright, artificial light of the bay and a wave of cool, processed air. She pulled her hands from the control guides and removed her helmet. Her hair was damp with sweat. Every movement hurt. She unbuckled herself and stood up on shaky legs. Leaning against the edge of the hatch, Dae-hyun was there. He stood at the base of the mech, looking up at her. His face, usually so hard and closed, was open. The deep worry line between his eyes was gone. In its place was a profound pride, so strong it made his eyes shine. He did not smile, but he didn't need to. Min-ji came running, pushing past a hovering maintenance droid. "You did it! You crazy, wonderful pilot, you did it!" she yelled. Her voice echoing in the bay. Ji-yoon began the slow climb down the ladder. Her injured leg protested, buckling once. Dae-hyun was immediately there, his hand firm under her elbow, steadying her until her feet were on the solid floor. "You carried a world in there," Dae-hyun said. His voice rough. June looked at the Morning Star. It was covered in deep black scorch marks. Its armor was dented. Smoke still drifted from its joints. The wording "patience" was still visible, untouched amidst the damage. She placed a hand on its warm metal leg. "It is only the first chapter," she replied. Her voice quiet but clear. A shadow fell across them. They turned. Speaker Kvor was standing at the entrance to the bay. He looked different without his huge hologram around him. He seemed smaller. His fine blue scales were dull. He held a recording device, but it was lowered at his side. He did not speak for a long moment, his large dark eyes fixed on Ji-yoon. When he finally did, the smooth, mocking tone was gone. His voice was hesitant, almost awkward. "The Galactic Commons Broadcasting Service wishes to conduct a post-match interview with the victor." He paused, swallowing hard. "With Pilot Ji-yoon." He had said her name. He had tried to pronounce it correctly. It wasn't perfect, but the effort was unmistakable. Ji-yoon looked at him. She saw no mockery now, only a shaken confusion. She remembered her grandmother's hands, rebuilding from rubble. She thought of the silent, standing crowd. This was not a moment for triumph or for shame. It was a moment for something else. She nodded once. "Yes." Kvor raised the recording device. A soft light illuminated her face. Across the galaxy, on a million screens, the image would be clear. A small, tired human woman in a scorched flight suit, standing beside her battered machine. "Pilot Ji-yoon," Kvor began, his voice formal. "Your strategy was not one the arena has seen before. What is it called?" Ji-yoon thought for a second. "It does not have a galactic name," she said. "It is just how we have learned to survive. You use what you have. You bend when you cannot stand. You wait for the right moment. And you never let go of who you are." Kvor nodded slowly, as if writing the words in his mind. "And your name," he said, the question everyone was thinking. "What does it mean to you now?" June looked past the light, past the speaker, toward the arena tunnel where the silent respect of the crowd still lingered in the air. "It means I am not alone," she said simply. "It means I have more to do." She did not say anything else. Kvor, understanding the interview was over, lowered his device. He gave another awkward, small nod, then turned and walked away. His footsteps echoing. Dae-hyun put a blanket around Ji-yoon's shoulders. Min-ji handed her a bottle of water. Together, the three of them turned and walked slowly out of the bay, away from the lights and the silence of the arena. Behind them, the Morning Star stood quiet and enduring in its cradle. The first fight was over. The story of Ji-yoon, and the quiet, stubborn people she represented, was now known, and the galaxy would never look at a human the same way again.